Hi there, I'm Michael Hill with Canine Chronicle TV, and today for our Influencers series, I'm here with Lorrie Carlton, whose kennel name Bell Creek is synonymous with some of the best Bichons in the world, and we are going to find out how that came to be and who was, influential and impactful in that process. So, first off, how are you, Lorrie?
I'm fine, thank you.
Wonderful. So, why don't we just jump right in? How did you first make contact with the sport of dogs in general?
I'm a second generation. My parents, my father got his first Weimaraner in 1949, before I was
Wow.
born. He was a field trial man and got into showing his own dogs in the
Hmm.
50s and early 60s. And
Wow.
I
So
showed
you were
my first,
born
no,
into
that's
it.
okay. Yes, I was. So raised with Weimaraners, and at that time it was really neat because there were a lot of long hair. They were throwbacks, and yeah,
I had no
that's how I
idea.
learned how to walk. I
Really?
seriously, seriously,
Wow.
yeah.
And so at the beginning, you were you were with the big dogs. When did you transition to the Bichons, and when was that love affair
Well,
started for you?
I was fortunate in that I was a licensed a professional assistant,
Hmm.
American Kennel Club licensed handlers, and them. I also got my licensed professional handlers. It was a limited license, but we had a client in 1974 approach us to show a dog. But in 1973, my father went to Europe with Dick Becker, and he wanted to get me a Bichon. And at
Hmm.
the time, it was just going to be too much work to do. I felt to own my own coated breed and try to show as many coated breeds as I did, which ended up being what I primarily did for my entire handling career. So in 74, she approached us. 75, my father started showing the dog that she got. And in 1976, I fell in love with Sam. And in 1976, he got tore up pretty bad by a dog during the Christmas holidays. So our
Hmm.
first set of shows, actually the first four shows in January, they were all single shows at the time, Marion, Ohio type thing. Those wonderful years of smaller venues. And so I showed Sam the very first dog show. I showed him in that first part of the year, and Bob Condon was there, and he had a top 10 Bichon, and I beat him in the breed. And then I won the group over the number one skip in the country. And that was under, yeah, right. Okay. That one you got me on. I'll have to remember that one.
I'm already impressed. You're doing great.
The next weekend was Pontiac Kennel Club, and Bill Fettner was judging. And my dad's regular client was his Keysond client. And so he won the breed in Bichons and he won the breed in Keys. And I showed the Bichon. And it was kind of a novelty at the time, but I won the group. My dad won second. And
Mm,
it was cool.
making a
But
habit.
yeah, the third weekend now this was before the herding and the working group were divided. So the third weekend, Erica Huggins was doing the breed in the group, and my dad showed both, and he won both. And then he won the group with the Great Pyrenees. It was one of Gene Boyd's. It was Poco Pierce King Crusher, and that I can't remember who the judge was. But anyway, we go in for best in show, and I had to show one. My dad showed one. Tom Gannon was judging, and my dad said, "I think it's going to be between you and the Dandy Dinmont." And this is a good story because the Dandy Dinmont was being shown by Bobby Hutton, and
Hmm.
yeah. And he said, "Whatever you do," he said, and he told me what he wanted me to do with Sam, and I did it. And that was Tom's last show that he judged at, and I went best in show. Yeah.
Wow.
So the
That's
first
quite a start in the breed.
it was. It was. He won the next group, and then The owner of the dog kind of had a little issue with the groomer that she had been using. And I had been grooming professionally for a while. I started when I was 14. And
Oh.
I'd come home from school and I'd groom 2 dogs a day. And then I would do chores at our kennel. We had a boarding facility, pretty good sized
Mm.
one. And so that's how I got in the breed. And I had to kind of just take over. And I loved it. And I loved Sam. So between my dad and I, we showed Sam. He stayed in the top 10 for a good 2 years. And he
Wow.
never got another best in show, but it was a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun.
And enough to hook you and
Oh,
never let you go.
oh, by all means, by all means. The owner was cool. Her name was Naomi Macwick, and
Mm.
she used to live here and in Arizona, and she would travel back and forth. And so when she would travel back and forth, she liked her Shar Pei also. So she
Mm.
would take her with her, and she would take 2 Bichons. That was all she could really handle. So she'd leave the rest with me and say, "All right, well, let's plan on these breedings." And so I'd like, okay. So I'd stay at the kennel, and well, I lived there anyway. I help out with the breedings. I'd whelp the puppies and let them grow up. And
Wow.
so yeah, that was how I got involved.
You just kind of fell right into the whole breeding program
I
by
did.
default.
I did.
That was going to be my next question. And then did you know at that time that that was going to be something you were going to prioritize long term, and or was it more focused on handling at that moment?
Well, I think it was still more handling.
Hmm.
I really wanted to be a handler. And 1979, I bought my parents' kennel. And I also started going through a real bad divorce. And prior to that start of that divorce, I fell into Jean Rank was retiring from Bichon's. She was a leading person in the same time that Barbara Stubbs and Lois Morrow brought Bichon's over. And I was showing for her, and I really liked the lady, and she offered me some dogs, and I chose not to take them at the time.
Mm.
But in hindsight, I kind of wish I would. But you know what? I'm here today, so I can't complain.
Hindsight's
But
2020, right?
yeah, exactly. Um, but my focus was handling for a long time, and but I thoroughly enjoyed the Bichons. And when I came into this litter, Jean had asked Judy Thayer, Janelle's Kennels, who had bred Sam, the dog I went best in show with. Um, she wanted me to evaluate this litter, and I went up to Judy's place, and there were 5 males, and I just this one puppy kept just standing right out.
Mm.
And I picked the puppy that I wanted to take to sell for Jean, and it was a pet. And then about a week and a half, 2 weeks later, I had a training facility at my kennel, and I said to the Bichon Club that was local, and they used to use it, and I let them do it without any charge. And I remember Judy bringing this puppy with her, and she had 2 puppies, both obviously both boys. It's all was in the litter. And somebody else showed this puppy that was named Andy. And I saw him again, and I said, "Oh my God." So I said to Judy, this was kind of cute. I said to her, I said, "I want to buy that puppy."
Mm.
And she kind of argued with me in the beginning. She said, "I think this puppy's better." And I said, "Well, that's your opinion, but this is the puppy I like. I'd like this puppy." So she sold him to me right then and there. I kept him. And Jean Rank, it was the last litter she bred. So I honored her kennel name, and his name was
Wow.
Rank's Raggedy Andy.
Oh, I
He
love
went
that.
on. Yeah, he went on. We won the 81 national. He multiple group winner, specialty winner. And that was when Bichons were like 20 and 30 dogs every weekend.
Wow.
10 specials. I mean, it was a huge entry of Bichons.
Some
So
might say you had a good eye.
I would hope I would.
I love that. And I also love how that's a combination too of those different breeding programs, because that's what I was going to also kind of ask is who are the breeding programs and the mentors as far as that component goes.
Well, the mentors early on in the breed, Jean didn't really teach me anything other than giving me the opportunity to have some nice dogs. Naomi, she did teach some. Judy really didn't teach much. And because I was a handler and the emphasis on my dogs was handling more so than quote breeding, yeah. The Bichon world was taken back in the beginning. I mean, I came in like a storm and yeah. They didn't know what to do. Jean Fournier was the one person in the very beginning who took notice, but she didn't really do a whole lot. So my mentoring in the breed part was minimal, to be honest with you. I had much more mentoring in the all breed situation than I did in the breed situation.
Wow.
I grew up with handlers like Dick Cooper and Jack Funk and Bobby Barlow. Some of the people that taught me things. Jack was a very influential person. When I first started grooming some terriers, he told me, he says, take that picture in your mind of the perfectly groomed, well confirmation dog and put it in your mind and memorize it. And I did. And that's where I went from there.
It's like stamped.
Exactly. Exactly.
And some would call that the standard.
Yes.
I think that's a really cool point too, also that your experience with people who were teaching you at maybe that moment about grooming, you know, and structure for the show ring colored your decisions in selecting dogs that would be examples of your breed when you weren't being given that information from within your specific breed. Very
true. In 1965, my dad decided to branch out from Weimaraners, and he got an Old English sheepdog. He decided to breed Old English sheepdogs in addition to the Weimaraners. I hunted. I was the boy he never had. So we went places and did things. And I was always amazed at the lack of standards in a lot of the field dogs at that time. But the heart and the muscle tone that these dogs, the stamina was just unreal. It was just phenomenal. Wow. So, but I grew up with the Old English sheepdogs, and I think that was one of my biggest help in learning structure was because I had to learn to watch them through the hair. You know, people don't realize
a whole challenge of its own.
Well, and the markings. I mean, you have a poorly marked rear on an Old English. Exactly. Well, not so much the front, but the rear for sure. You know, they have a hock that's well let down, and they amble when they gait, which they have reasons for all of that. I mean, and that was the other thing that I learned a lot of was the history of the breeds that were actual working, doing a job came into a big play in how I evaluated dogs. So when it came to the Bichons, I mean, it became a natural to watch them move. Which was easier. They were all white, you know, I didn't have to worry about markings. But that's how I became so involved in the structure. And I also rode horses.
That's fascinating. So many dog people have a foundation in horses.
Yep. I rode, my dad had pictures, which unfortunately got destroyed in a flood, but of me sitting on the saddle with him when I was 6 months old. And to this day, I still have a horse. And,
I love that.
Yeah, car accident made it so that I can't ride anymore, but I still have one and I still love them. And
gotta keep them around.
Oh God, yes. But no, I enjoy horse shows. I'm thoroughly enthralled with going to local shows when I can. I have a good
Hmm.
friend who raises some very top Arabians, and she only lives 45 minutes from me. So,
Wonderful.
and I get to see all the pictures, and I get some of her retired stallions that have been gelded, and
Oh,
those are
I
how
love
I got some of
that.
my wonderful horses to ride.
And I
So,
think that's just like another example of translating what you know from even a different species when it comes to movement and structure and form and function to your dogs as small as a Bichon, right?
yeah, and I tell people that I mentor, if you really want to watch movement and you really want to learn, go to horse shows.
Hmm.
It's all there. There's nothing you can hide. I
There's
mean,
no hair.
no, no. And I mean, they moved, and the other thing is sitting on their back. You can feel a horse that pounds. You can feel a
Hmm.
horse that's not balanced, and yeah,
I think
that's
that's a
an interesting.
great piece of advice because that's something you many people would never think to do that, especially nowadays. If somebody has like, a pet dog and you're trying to learn, it'd be unusual to think to go to learn from a horse.
Yes, but I also tell them to go and sit and watch other breeds. I'm
Hmm.
very, very involved in the fact that if you really want to learn about your breed, watch other breeds.
Hmm.
Watch Great Danes, your breed. Watch any breed that doesn't have the coat and
Yeah.
take notes of some of those things and go read their standard.
Yeah.
See if you can apply all of the various standardized, uh, oh, what do I want to say exactly? I'm sorry. Um, what their standard has to say about the dogs you see in the ring. And
Yeah.
compare the two and see what you see, and then come back and let's look at the dogs that you have. I also will take a dog and completely wet it down and say, all right, like, let's look at
Ah.
this dog. All right, let's
Mhm.
you if you can't see what I'm trying to show you on this trimmed Bashan, let's throw it in the bathtub and let's wet it down and let me
Yeah.
show you. So, and let you
Right.
see it, let you feel it, and let you do that route. But people today, unfortunately, it's about the win in a lot of respects. How fast can I get to that top win? How fast can I get my dog finished? And it just doesn't work that way. Not for me
Right.
anyway. No,
Clearly not.
no,
But
no.
though you still have managed to get a couple of what we would call top wins in there in your time, I'd say.
Just a few, and I have to say I'm very proud of my dogs. I'm very proud of what I've done and what I've accomplished. Um,
What are some of your favorite moments?
oh my God, I do have some wonderful ones. I mean, winning Best in Show with Bill showing Flynn at Best in Show at the Garden was absolutely
How
phenomenal.
can you top that?
Well, you're right, but when you're on the end of the lead and you win the group at the Garden with a Borzoi bitch in 1993.
I didn't know that.
Yes, yeah.
Oh, look at you.
she uh, she won 6 regular specialties and she won the national all in a year and a
Wow.
half. And she won the national under Annie Clark. Yeah, and that's when there were
Okay,
two and
that's
300 Bashan or Borzoi out there.
yeah.
And the year after I won the group at the Garden, we wanted one more show, and it was Detroit. And
Mhm.
her owner was there, Ron, and wonderful, wonderful person. We're still good friends. Uh, we took Rose and showed her, and Dorothy McDonald was judging the group there. I'd won the breed under Clint Harris. It was a huge specialty. Went into the group, and Pat Trotter had come in with one of her dogs that she had just won the group at the Garden, and I beat her went in the group at Detroit, and that was her last show. That was
Wow.
basically that was my retiring show.
Well, that's a pretty good way to go, I have to say. You
No,
can't top that.
I no complaints, and I won the national with her, and I won the national with my Bouvier. We flew out to Pleasanton, California. Won the
Mhm.
I actually bred 2 litters of Bouviers in the early 80s also. My second husband,
Really?
yeah, my second husband was a Bouvier person, but I had always loved the breed. I showed quite a few.
Yeah.
So of my 2 litters, I had 4 finish. One became an all breed best in show, multiple best in show winner. So, and I only ever had 2 litters of them.
Yeah.
So I like to think that, and then that was a really cute story too, though. I had mentored this lady and showed for her, and she really wanted to breed this dog. So the first breeding that I engineered for her was bred to a quiche dog, and beautiful litter, but she didn't want to keep anything, and I'm like, well, that was sad. Second litter, I was judging a fun match, and Debbie Geschwender brought a dog to me that he had a bad experience, and she was getting him back out into the ring, making sure that he was solid.
Really fun.
And I fell in love with this dog. I put my hands on him, and I'm like, wow. His name was
Mm.
Ice. Oh, he was a
Oh, I
silver.
like that name.
Yeah, he was a silver. He was a beautiful dog. So I told Bonnie, the owner of the bitch, I said, you want to breed one more time? I said, this is the dog I think you should breed to. I said, I like his pedigree. And I knew a lot of Bouvier people. I mean, I don't live very far from the Paquettes. And at that time, I can go back to some early dogs. So she said, okay. So we had this litter, and my husband, being veterinarian and grooming or doing ear cropping, he did all the ear crops on this litter of 10 Bouviers. And there was this one puppy. I told her, I said, Bonnie, you need to keep this puppy. Really need to keep this puppy and show it. Well, at that time, her and her husband were retiring, and they were moving down to Florida. And at the end of the day, I walk into the clinic area where the dog is, and I said to Bonnie, I said, why are you, I said, why, this was the 90s. I said to Larry, why is this dog still here? Is there a problem? And he said, no, he's yours. I said, oh, come on. He's not mine. I said, no. I said, I need a Bouvier right now, like I need a hole in the head. I mean, we were 5 years into our business, and we're swamped, and I've got Bichons up the wazoo. So
Oh,
anyway, trader, we called him Trading
he
Places.
stayed.
He traded all the ear crops for this dog. He said, here, he's your present. Oh my God. I loved that dog. Multiple best in
Oh,
shows, won the national, was my pet.
that's a hell of a trade.
Oh my God, yes. And he was phenomenal. He really was.
That's the total package too. Something that you put together from the beginning in a breed that you've watched and you've been, a student of, and then having it, be a network of also people that you care about so much, making it happen.
Yes, yes. I've been fortunate in that respect, Mike. I've been given many litters of puppies to evaluate. They're breeds that I don't know. I've never watched them grow up, which I think is a very important part to being a breeder, is watching somebody else's litters grow up. But I'll read the standard prior to them coming, and sometimes I won't read it as closely as I'd like to, but I read it. And then I watch the puppies, and I do process of elimination. I immediately take out the ones that I feel that aren't, that they have teeth that aren't lined up right, or whatever the fault might be. And I get it down, and there's almost always that one puppy or 2 puppies that stand out. And I do follow them. And I've also judged a lot of fun matches and sweepstakes. And I did a cocker sweepstakes one time, and I saw this buff dog, and I'm like, oh my word. I'm not a buff cocker enthusiast. I like the blacks and the parties better than the buffs, but I appreciate a good dog. And then this dog was a great dog. And,
well, on that line, I can see that, like, when you even just talk about a dog, you like your whole face lights up. You do appreciate a good dog.
I do. And I mean, Stacy took this dog on to being one of the top buff cockers there was. So,
wonderful.
And so I enjoy the sport. I have for many, many years. I still enjoy it. I thoroughly enjoy my Bichons. I've got a litter of 3 puppies in the living room here with me.
Oh,
and
amazing.
6 weeks old. They're adorable. So
the cutest age too.
Oh yes, and they're little people underestimate them. they act like little terriers. They're little terrors sometimes. So
they got to keep you on your toes. Well,
oh
on that
yes.
note about how this has been something that not only as a child and starting out that you loved and enjoyed, and even to this day after all that, you're still lit up and enjoying it. I want to know if you have any advice or things that you realize played a role in sustaining that passion and enjoyment for you, because I know it's something that some people have inherently, but I think there's also factors or maybe things we can do to protect that or to bring that out and kind of create a sustainable life and career in dogs. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, my thought kind of comes all to one thing. I go to my national with not the intention of winning, but of seeing all the dogs and seeing what there is out there to breed to or to buy from or to help correct and to bring into my line. It's not about the win for me. It's not.
Yeah.
I mean, I appreciate good dogs. And
Yeah.
if I've been beaten by a better dog, so be it.
Right. That's what should happen.
But I'm also not about, I would like to say that I could be more open. And for instance, years ago when we were showing, it was not uncommon. We used to do a lot of Chicago shows. Proximity was close. My dad and I would go to shows, and let's just, for instance, say that we were in the same ring with two other handlers. Let me just throw out two names. Let me throw out Dick Cooper and Ken Murray.
Yeah.
Right. And it was not uncommon for one of us to see something that their dog was doing and mention it to him, whether it be a good point or a bad point, and or a grooming point.
And that openness.
Exactly. And say something to them without having anybody take any offense to it.
Right.
Okay, let's go out and after the class is over, no matter who wins or who doesn't win, or if we all win or don't, I mean, nobody, obviously we're not all going to win, but we're going to go out and we're going to look at that dog and we're going to say, all right, let's get this dog to look the best it can look.
Right.
Karen Miller and I forged a wonderful friendship throughout the years. I miss that woman like you cannot imagine. I cried for days, and when she moved and when she passed away last year, but to this day, she was what we could talk about dogs honestly, and it was so nice. And that's the problem. It's the honesty that's gone.
Right.
And
if you're worried about subtext or games being played and all this kind of stuff, you're losing the point about what you just said, where it's just about a good dog.
Right.
And if you're just focused on a win, you're focusing on what you can do to get a win, and it's separate from the dog altogether.
Balance is a big thing in all breeds, my breed especially. People have breeds of dogs that yours, the Great Dane, has a purpose. I saw your golden retriever running around. I think it's a golden, isn't it?
Yeah.
They have a purpose. My Bouvier's had a purpose. We have a Whippet. We have it. Oh yeah, she's adorable. We love the sight hounds.
I do too.
My very first show dog was an Afghan hound. So
really?
Yeah, I was 16 years old.
Wow.
But what was I going to say? I just love a good animal. I mean, seeing them to do the things that they do. Bichons are so fun, so funny. They're entertaining, but they have no purpose other than to be a companion. And they originally started out basically as a circus dog. So
just make you smile.
And they do. I mean, a quick pet story. And that's another thing I do still follow up on, and I enjoy. I tell all my puppy people, send me puppy pictures. I love it. Throughout their lives, not just, once. We had a family that came in, and oh my God, I fell in love with this family immediately. They were just like, wow.
Yeah.
Great family for a Bichon. And he's like this huge guy, huge. And uh, Jim comes in and he's an ex-football player. I don't know that he played professionally or not. I never really asked him, but I did know he played in college. So family, and he's like, okay, it's going to go along. He says, I work too many hours. I'm not going to be the major caregiver. He says, this is my wife and my daughter's decision. And I'm like, okay, this is still a perfect fit. So they get their first Bichon, and then 10 days later, they come in for their vaccines. Jim's bringing the puppy in. And I'm like, that's nice. Then it comes in about a month later for its first major grooming. Obviously, I've already started that. And he's like, I can't handle it. This is awful. I don't want to hand her off to you. I said, are you a big puppy dog too? He says, terrible. He says, I'm on the floor with this dog all the time. And I said, and you didn't want a dog, did you? And I said,
famous last words.
No. And he says, not a cute little fluffy dog for sure. He says, I was thinking of a manly dog, and they're not manly. Well, yeah, they are.
Maybe it is now.
We still take care of Jim's dogs.
I love
it.
That's amazing. And I think that's also just a great point too, is like if you're just focusing on wins or bragging rights of some sort, you're missing out on, like, that is the most rewarding and beautiful part of your breed, is you are connecting this person who would never have known how much he'd love that little dog with something that changes the course of his life.
Right. I interview people who get puppies from me, if they've had a Bichon before, then I'm pretty cool. But if not, everybody has to have an interview of some sort. And sure. I've got some very famous people who have some of my dogs. I don't brag about them. I mean, I could mention their names.
A good home.
Exactly. And one of them actually flew out here to pick up her puppy and sat in my house twice, and I loved every minute of it. And I like meeting people, and I think that's another thing that people that get my breed, you have to be a people person, because the breed just screams, hi, how are you? Can I shake your hand? So
it's gonna make all your neighbors, everybody you walk by. It's not good if you want to be a social recluse.
No, but people and dogs today, it's about the win. And I had a really nice compliment the other day. A lady, we were crammed for space at this show. She had a standard Schnauzer, and she was obviously upset. She was very quiet. She was grooming her dog. And anyway, she moved her stuff over. We all said it fit together in this little row. And I said something to her as I walked by. I said, you don't know me, but I said, I think you need to take a look at this one spot on your dog. I said, where you're grooming, I said, it's going to look like he's throwing his elbow. And she looked at me, and she brought the hair up, and she looked at it, and she pulled out the hair. She stripped him just like she was supposed to. And it was a real nice dog. And she went in, she won the breed, and she came back and she thanked me. And she said, do you know a lot about standard Schnauzers? And I said, I know enough. And so I helped her with a couple little spots, and she thanked me immensely. And then she started to break down. Turns out her older dog, who was her favorite, had just passed away. Oh. And she felt very comfortable talking with me, which made me feel good.
It's a safe space.
Exactly. But here we've remained, I see her at the dog shows now a lot in our area. She's, hi, how are you? And we're back and forth, and we're Facebook friends. And she has her other dogs, and she made a really nice comment about the fact that, she saw how we took care of our dogs after we got our announcement that we were up for the breeder of the year. And but I'm like, she's just a really nice and sharp dog lady. And I'm like, I was proud to say that she went on and she did fine on her own. So
but it takes those, it takes that support system and those people like yourself who are can see that and then are also willing to put yourself out there to reach out to that person, that makes that person's time in the sport worthwhile. And now you're something that she looks forward to at a show and makes her feel
Yes.
good to be there. Because it's hard to show up by yourself at the beginning and go through all that work and money and effort, and especially when you don't know what you're doing and they might not be winning.
Right.
So it takes people who are willing to kind of embrace people who can use the help.
And I'm out there. I like to be out there. If people want help, I'm more than happy to help them. But I'm
They
an
should sure
honest.
take advantage of it.
I'm an honest person though, and that has gotten me into a couple of predicaments because of the fact
don't change.
I try hard not to. I don't want to, embarrass anybody or hurt anybody's feelings. But
Sure.
If
Sometimes the
there,
truth is hard.
It is, and I'd rather you have. I tell people I'd rather have you learn outside the ring than inside the ring. That's even more embarrassing. I've had a lot of embarrassing situations. Trust me, being a handler, being a breeder. And now it's like, all you can do is sit back and laugh. And you just go, yep, it is what it is. And here I am. And okay, let's go.
We'll try again tomorrow, right?
Yes.
Oh, well, Lorrie, it has been such a pleasure. You are a compendium of knowledge and such great stories. And I just appreciate you so much for taking the time out of your busy day with puppies and everything to share with us.
Thank you very much.